Welcome to the Belief Breakthrough Show, where we believe that you can achieve the life you dream of simply through shifting your perspective and breaking through your limiting beliefs. With your host, Tina Encarnacion, the author of Stuck in the Fire, a story of resilience, trauma and abuse coach, an energy healer, and Reiki master. Hey everyone, thank you for tuning in again to another amazing episode of the Belief Breakthrough Show, where we believe that you can achieve the life that you dream simply through shifting your perspective and breaking through your limiting beliefs. My name is Tina Encarnacion and I am your host. I am a trauma and abuse coach, a Reiki energy master and healer, as well as the author of Stuck in the Fire, a story of resilience. Today we are so blessed because we have the amazing Carolyn Hobdey, who is the creator and founder of Mayday. She is absolutely phenomenal, and she is going to share with us why she has created this company to help women heal around the world. So Carolyn, if you could please share what you've been through and how you got through it and what made you the person you are today.
Sure. Well, thank you for that amazing introduction. So I mean, almost exactly 2 years ago, my life imploded very sort of spectacularly. And it started with me being forced out of a job that I absolutely loved through somebody that I worked for who was a bully, and sort of made it untenable for me to stay in the job that I was in, which was really devastating to me. So that was going on, and then sort of within the same 2-week period, my partner just suddenly announced that our relationship was over. And so essentially through that, I was losing my job, and then I lost my relationship, and with that, lost my home and my family essentially. So my partner had stepchildren that we had with us sort of 50% of the time, and I had been co-parenting and looking after them for the last 3 years. And I'm somebody who couldn't have children of my own. So I'd really, with his encouragement, really invested in that family unit and those children. But like I said, in the space of a fortnight, the whole thing imploded and disappeared. But what it allowed me to do was to come out and really just share with the people around me that for sort of the previous 18 months, he'd been very emotionally abusive. My view and that of sort of speaking to professionals was that he had narcissistic personality disorder. So he'd been very typical narcissist, which I sort of learned a lot about that in the weeks and months and the years since. And, so really I'd stayed in that relationship really because of my love of his children and my desperate want and need to make it work. So I really, I like I said, I was really heavily invested in all of those relationships. And it came crashing down. And really what it forced me to do was to have a really, really long, hard look at what had happened in that relationship, but also in previous relationships that I'd had, because really what I realized in some way, shape or form, sort of all the relationships I'd had been really unhealthy, and some to a greater or lesser degree, but my own deep sense of unworthiness, which had stemmed from my childhood, had really just impacted all of the relationships that I'd had, how I'd behaved in those relationships, the kind of people that I was attracted to and allowed to stay in my life when they shouldn't have done. And it really just, it held up the mirror in that moment. And it was it's been a very long road out of there, but it's been an amazing road out of there because, I've learned an awful lot. But I think really it showed me that I was repeating the same mistakes over and over again. And I think the universe brings this stuff to you, doesn't it? In the end, I think I wasn't learning the mistakes. And I think the universe went, okay, here's one massive lesson that's going to make you sit up and take notice and really stop and think. And so really from a point of, being absolutely in the depths of despair, to the point where I was on the brink of suicide back 2 years ago when all of that happened. You know, I've built the road out, and it caused me to put together Mayday in order to help other people who are, you know, wanting to make change in their lives, but are just a bit lost and drifting and stuck and don't really know how to go about making that change. So that's really how Mayday came about. And I've developed a process to help people so that they have to do the work to make the change. But I've developed a process that says, here are the steps that you need to go through to make that change. So the how-to is done for them, and then they can work through that how-to and bring about that change in their lives.
That's absolutely amazing that you have the ability to create that. I teach something similar with my clients as well. I've created what I refer to as the faith method of healing, where it's step by step dealing with addressing the wounds. And that's really what it is going through life. Like you mentioned, you keep stuffing, and then all of a sudden it implodes because you're not learning the lesson. You repeat it, the same experience, but with a different mask, right?
Yeah.
A different man, but the same relationship, right?
Yeah.
A different type of abuse, but still abuse. And then finally you're like, you're not getting it. You're not getting it.
Yeah. Exactly that. Yeah.
Yeah. I realized it's funny because well, it's not funny, but I had been emotionally abused my entire childhood. So I didn't really know what love looked like. And then I went out of my being with my parents, and I found another man who treated me the same way. And then I left that man, and I found another man that treated me even worse. And so I left that man, and I found a man that was physically and emotionally abusive. And finally I was like, okay, what's going on? And I had to realize, like, I didn't love myself, but that's because I didn't know what love looked like.
Yeah.
And so I had to take time to learn to love myself. Just like you felt worthless, and you had to figure out a way to find your worth.
Yeah. And I think very much for me, the word that I would use in reflection now is safe, in that I have never felt safe in any relationship that I've had. And I think the thing that I've had to start to try and learn and put together is like, okay, so what does safe in a relationship feel like? Because I don't really understand that feeling. So it's probably, you know, similar to you, like you say, that feeling of love that you didn't feel. I think I understood what love felt like, but I didn't understand what safe felt like, to be able to trust, to not always be on my guard all the time. Because I, particularly in the last relationship, I was, you know, walking on eggshells like all the time. And I think then even beyond that relationship, I've been operating on adrenaline in those relationships a lot. So I don't know what it felt like to feel safe with somebody and therefore able to just be myself. And so much of that then came from learning to be really comfortable with me. And that's what I've spent like the last 2 years doing, is putting back together my identity in the way I want my identity to be. And then, you know, getting that feeling of feeling safe with myself, trusting myself. And then from there, I think I can then start to feel safe with other people and start to trust other people.
Absolutely. And it's amazing that you're able to identify that. What am I looking for? It's safety. I need to know. And what does that look like? Like, you were able to break it down and really, really cut it apart and make it palatable. And I think that that's one issue that us, especially as women, have, is we get overwhelmed with the amount of what do I need. We don't break it down. We don't make it palatable. We try to eat like a whole apple pie in one bite, and you can't do that. You have to cut the pieces together, right? And then fit it back together. So what was the first step you had to take to figure out that you had never felt safe?
I think what was interesting for me was, so, I mean, you know, it's the power of friendship, isn't it? The one thing my best friend had always said to me, I need you to see what other people see, you know, and she kept saying, you need to learn to love yourself. And I was like, I don't know what that means. You know, I don't understand what you mean by that or how that feels. But what was really interesting is I then sort of took some time out and sort of went away. I actually went on a retreat, as it turned out. And the thing that I really started to take away from that is that learning to just loving myself was actually a choice. And I think so often, particularly I think when we've been in abusive relationships, we feel like we have no power, we feel like we have no control. That control often comes externally, and is somebody has control over us. And I think for me, it was taking back that control and understanding that how I feel about me, or how I feel about situations or about other people, is absolutely my choice. And the first step I took was to thinking, well, actually, loving myself or not loving myself isn't dependent on anything or anyone else other than me making that choice. And I thought, right, okay, from now, I'm going to choose to love myself. And how I really got through that was realizing, like, I had some fantastic friends and great family who, when everything caved in, really sort of stepped in and helped me. And I thought, do you know what? If I say that I'm not worthy of love, then I'm kind of throwing all that help and all that support and all that love they're showing me back in their faces, because I'm pretty much saying to them, well, you're wrong. I'm not worthy of the love that you're giving me. I don't think I'm worthy of that. And I thought, actually, these are really fantastic people who have really gone out of their way to do kind things to me, to support me and to help me. And if I don't love myself, then I'm pretty much telling them that they're idiots. I'm not worthy of that love. And actually, these people weren't idiots. They were really kind. They were really great people. And I was really blessed by them. So, I thought, actually, I owe it. I owe it to myself, but I owe it to them as well, to go, actually, no, you're not idiots. I am worthy of that time, that attention, that support, whatever it was that they were giving me. So that was really, really the first step for me, is to understand, okay, it's a choice. I choose my feelings and I choose that I'm going to love me.
Yes, that's so important to understand. It's a choice. Because many times we go through life and we say, oh, I was dealt these bad cards. Oh, these people are so mean to me. I just attract all this negativity. But you're choosing to, because you can shift it. You can pivot. I mean, I played the victim role for 34 years. And finally I was like, you know what? I'm done. I'm done being this victim. I'm ready to step into positivity and power and love myself. Right. And it's that choice.
Yeah.
And it's looking for that pivot point. At what point do you hit rock bottom and say, enough's enough, I'm going to step out of this life?
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And I think that was it. And I just thought, do you know what, from here on in, and I'm not saying that's easy. That's not been an easy thing to do. I have days when I, doubt myself and all of those things. So I'm not saying that it's suddenly you make this choice and it's like flicking a light switch and it's all amazing. But, it was absolutely that choice. And it's like, okay, from here on in, the ways in which I'm going to behave, the attitude that I'm going to bring, the energy, like you say, that I'm going to have, is all going to be focused on the fact that I'm choosing to think that I'm worthy. I'm choosing to love myself. I'm choosing to be happy, because so often we think that those are things that other people give to us and gift to us, or don't. No, we those are gifts that we give to ourselves, and that was the first thing for me.
Yeah. So you almost have to take responsibility in your choice.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So what does that look like? What does responsibility look like to you in taking responsibility for that choice?
Very much about, you have to sort of redefine who you want to be. So part of what I did was taking the time to go, okay, so what are my standards? What are my values? What do I want to be able to say about myself? What do I want other people to experience from me? It's not so much, it's like, what do I want them to say about me, but it's what impression do I want to leave when people have spent time with me? Because it's that, it's a real cliche, but it's that thing, people forget what it is that you say to them, but they never forget how it is that you made them feel. And I think it's that, and in particular, it's like, how do I want people to feel when they've spent time with me? And so that, I think, really spending the time to do that. And I think for me, what I call that is sort of, rediscovering your identity. What is it that I want to stand for? And in particular, what are my standards? how am I going to accept that I am treated or not? Because people only treat you in the way that you show them it's okay to treat you. And, there are bad people out there, but there's also a lot of good people out there. But you do have to show people and have that confidence in yourself to go, do you know what? This is the standard that I expect for myself. And if somebody doesn't treat you in line with that standard, okay, so you need to show them, tell them, communicate that with them, say that that isn't acceptable. Because the moment you stay silent, they go, okay, that's where the bar is. And if you've lowered the bar from what you expect, then all that does is harm to you. And you have to make that decision to go, no, this is where the bar is. And do you know what? If you can't meet that bar with me having communicated that to you, I might give you another chance to go, okay, I now understand where the bar is. I'm not going to fall below it again. But if they do, then you have to be prepared to walk away from that, whether that's, friends, family, relationships, whatever that is. And sometimes we can't entirely remove that person from our lives or remove ourselves from their lives, because if it's family members or if it's a partner that you, share children with or whatever, you can't always completely eliminate them, but you can minimize them, and you can you do have control over your response to them. And I think it's that, and that standard is just so important, and communicating that standard and staying true to that standard, particularly when it's tested.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love how you brought in the communication into that, because especially as women, because women are treated so differently from birth, right? We're treated, you stay silent, you are seen, but you are not heard. You don't have you can't be too emotional, right? Stop crying, stuff it. We don't want to hear it. So teaching ourselves how to communicate is huge, because most women are not taught how to communicate. In fact, we're taught how to be silent. And so teaching yourself that it's okay to communicate, and feeling the just opening up our throat chakra and allowing our voice to be heard it can be challenging. But also, if you do not communicate, those standards will never be met. And a lot of times, like for me, before I learned to communicate, someone would hurt me and I would just literally eliminate them from my life. There'd be no communicating, there'd be no talking. I'd be like, I didn't like what they said. I didn't like how they made me feel. So you're deleted from my life. And I lost a lot of really amazing relationships because I didn't know how to speak my truth. I probably could have said, hey, I didn't like how you just told me I was fat and ugly. Can we work on this? Rather than breaking up with him and walking away, right? So communication is key, and you have to have communication in every relationship, right? And you have to have that level. And I've learned in my relationships to almost demand it. You're acting really off to me right now. I'm feeling like you're upset. Can we talk? Because I'm not a mind reader. I need you to talk to me. I need you to tell me, what are you feeling? If you upset me, that's okay. We'll work through it, but we need to talk.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's so important. I think you're right. And we need to spend more time talking about that. And for me, it's not about going, as women, we just have such a terrible time. Because I think that in itself is sort of a message that isn't always helpful. Because I don't think it's useful for us to become the victim. I think it is just about saying, how do we have good communication? And, my phrase always is like, don't leave anything in the locker. You need to sort of get it all out there and say, and like, particularly in relationships, particularly in close personal relationships, it's about taking that attitude, being respectful, of course, listening as much as you do talk, really hearing what the other person is saying, because, obviously so often we spend our times not listening to what the other person is saying, which is waiting for them to stop so that we can start talking. I think that really clear communication, I do think that we do need to open that up exactly how you say, and educate women better in terms of their ability to have that conversation, but also educate men too, that it's okay to have that communication. And like you say, don't get over emotional about it, and just try and be on a level. But you're right, we need to stop silencing, and sort of seeing that as a method by which, like you say, we're seen and we're not heard. We just smile and nod because that's easier, and we don't want to be seen as aggressive and overly emotional. And a lot of what I used to get, particularly when I was younger, was like, oh, you're too sensitive. And I've learned that, and particularly in the last couple of years, yeah, I am sensitive. Yeah, I'm an empath. I absolutely am. And I'm actually now using that to my advantage, because I think I see and I feel things with people that I've realized now that probably most other people don't see. Well, actually that's a strength. So, let's use it.
Absolutely. And I love how you say it's a strength, because so many people think that oversensitivity is a weakness. And I think by accepting that and using it as one of our gifts instead of hindering us, that we can rise above. And that's another way for us to learn to love ourselves deeper, is to listen to ourselves. Yeah. So also understanding your gifts, understanding your strengths, right, as gifts, and really going within and looking for what's beautiful inside of you as an individual, not what's terrible about you, because we compare ourselves so much to others, and we are our own worst enemy. We say things to ourselves that we wouldn't say to our own best friend, to our husband, to our children, right?
Yeah.
So
totally.
that's another way of self-love, is go within yourself, and instead of looking for the negative, look for the positive. What are those strengths? What can help you to build up the beautiful individual that is hiding within your soul? So as you were recreating your identity, how did you build up those strengths, that confidence, that belief within yourself, that love for yourself? What tools did you use to do that?
I think you touched on a really important one, was absolutely understanding that the way that I talk to myself is vitally important. And that whole concept of speaking to your inner self the way that you would speak to your best friend, and pulling yourself up on that and thinking, if this was my best friend who was saying these things about her, I would absolutely be pulling her up and going, don't you dare talk about yourself like that. Don't you dare say those things about you. Yes, there's always things that we can improve on. We're not going to universally go, oh my God, I'm amazing all of the time. Of course, we grow and we develop and we make mistakes and we look to improve. But absolutely speaking to myself internally, as if I was my own best friend, I think was absolutely key for me. I think beyond that, like I said, sort of knowing who I was and what I stood for, I think that was really important, and taking a look at my values, and understanding that, I think was key, and really spending the time on that, I think was really key. I also think listening, it might sound really simple, but I was terrible for just dismissing what other people would say when they said positive things. And I would not listen to that, and I would just listen to the negative stuff. And actually, I thought, do you know what? I need to shut my mouth and I need to open my ears. And as somebody once said, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth. We have them in that proportion for a reason. And actually really starting to listen to the positive things that people would say about me, and really taking that on board, not just going, oh, yeah, that's fine, but really listening to it and thinking, okay, let's join the dots here of the things that people are saying. So I think listening was really key. And the other thing for me was, you talk about confidence, and for me, confidence comes from competence. So, because a lot of the time, again, I think more to women than the men, we're just told, well, you just need to be more confident. And it's like, oh, well, if only you told me that 30 years ago, that would have changed my life, because that's easy. I'll just be more confident. So I think competence. So really, really looking at, what am I really good at? What are my strengths? Like I said, what are the things that people say about me? When have I been successful? And I think we don't do that audit of ourselves enough. Taking the time to do that, and it might take, a little bit of time to get that, but actually physically writing it down. What are the things that I've been through? What are the experiences that I've had? What are the skills that I've learned or had to use, or I've demonstrated when I've dealt with great times, when I've dealt with difficult times? Really do that self-audit. It's not about just the qualifications and the education that we've had. It's about the experiences that we've been through. And often when I think women have been through trauma and abuse, we we just think we're rubbish. We tell ourselves that, well, I must be hopeless because this has happened to me. Well, actually, no, you're amazing because of what you've survived and what you've learned and the skills that you've developed and used to deal with that situation, to come out the other side of that situation, to cope with it whilst it was going on. Do that audit, write it down, take a look at it and go, wow, this is what I'm capable of, because you'll find you have excellent communication skills, you have problem solving skills, you have decision making skills, just all of those things that are just real fundamental cornerstones of being a great human being. You've developed and you've used whilst you're going through that really difficult time. So reminding yourself of that and all of those skills, even if those skills have happened in really difficult times, especially when they've happened in really difficult times, you've come through it, you've survived it, you've dealt with it, you're still dealing with it, but you're using all those skills. So self-audit, I think, is absolutely key.
Mm-hmm. Those are amazing. Also, I love how you said listening and then self-audit. If you learn to listen, a lot of people will audit you for yourself as well. And that's something that I have learned through my experience is I listen to what others are saying to me, and I take it as constructive criticism, right? If you say Tina, you're too harsh. Tina, you cut people down with your words. Tina, you scare people. I listen and I go, okay, all right, well, how can I come gentler? How can I still get my point across, but without hurting them? How can I allow them to see my boundaries are established, but not just slice them off at the knees? Talk them through what's okay with me and what's not okay with me, right? So I allow them to listen. I also call it the mirror effect. When someone says something to me that lights me up and upsets me and makes me angry, rather than lashing out at them, I go, okay, what within me is getting triggered by that? Because that's obviously a direct reflection of something within me that's wrong. So I'm going to, instead of being angry with this person, I'm going to be grateful for them sharing that with me. And now I'm going to go inside and figure out what's broken so that I can fix it. And so listening to that audit as well from the outside in.
Yeah, definitely. It's really important. And I think, I love what you say about that, because I think it is that moment to, okay, it's fine to feel a bit hurt by what they've said. It's that's normal. That's a normal human reaction. But normally if you're feeling some kind of hurt, exactly like you say, it's pressed some kind of button in you and you just need to go away for a while. And I don't usually take very long to process that, if I'm honest. I think I've got quite a logical brain. But you just have to take a little bit of time out to go, okay, let's just pick back through the steps there of what was it? What was the moment? What was the words? What was the trigger point that really hurt? Okay, so why is that? And I come back to safety, actually. Why did I feel unsafe in that moment? Because that's usually where that flash of emotion comes from, is that you felt unsafe. So
absolutely.
Where did I feel unsafe, and where does that come from? And was it to do with that individual? Was it to do with the words they used? And what did that relate to, sort of somewhere in my history or my past? And so often what we really have to understand is those things do come from our history and our past and our experience, and not actually from that individual. So quite often we will be angry with that person, but it's not really that person. It's because they've triggered something that makes us feel unsafe or insecure from somewhere else. And that's the moment that we have to then take and go away and go, actually, it wasn't you. It was something that happened over here. But yeah, that feeling of safety and security, unpick it till you get to that point. When was the moment that I felt unsafe and why? And for me, that's massively sort of changed my approach, and certainly that sense of hurt, because then you can understand exactly where that comes from, and then you can start to identify that and fix it and then move forward.
Absolutely. You have so much knowledge, and it's amazing how simple you're able to phrase it so that we can pick it apart and go, oh, I can take that and put that to action in my life. And I can take this and put that to action in my life. And I think you've really been able to open up some minds and eyes today and allowed people to take some tools from this that they've been able to learn from you. And I'm just so grateful that you have given us time to be here and share your experience with us and your tools. And you guys, if you want to work with Carolyn, if you're like, I need some of her safe method in my life, if I want her to teach me how to feel safe and how to gain safety in my life, Carolyn, where can people find you?
So they can find me on Facebook, they can find me on Instagram. So they can find me either under Carolyn Hobdey, or they can find me under Mayday Crew on Facebook, on Instagram. They can find me on LinkedIn if they're on there. My website is currently being built, so we are on the brink of launching that. So that'll be www.maydaylimited.com. It would be great to connect with people who would like to hear more. So my 9-step process is called the Fathom Framework, and if people want to hear more about it, they can register, particularly via Facebook at the moment. So if they go to the Mayday Crew page on Facebook, you can follow the link and you can register there to be the first to hear about what the Mayday Crew are doing.
Absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for being on the show today. You guys, if you haven't, if you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, please do so now so you don't miss any more episodes. We go live every Monday and Wednesday at 6 p.m. Pacific time. If you want to be involved in a group of like-minded individuals that are on their path to healing and stepping into their truth and purpose, please join our Facebook group at Women Empowered to Heal. That's our Facebook group at Women Empowered to Heal. I look forward to seeing you guys on the next episode.